Jeremy Fowler and Dan Granziano of ESPN recently published an article discussing some free agency buzz and NFL rumors that they're hearing around the NFL scouting combine out in Indianapolis. And now, obviously, the combine is over, but we're going to dive into what they had to say. And in case you guys didn't know, there's a lot of free agency buzz to discuss this offseason. Mickey Loomis, he even has reported it. He has said it at Indianapolis, that he expects to be even more active in free agency than last year. Obviously, the Saints are running it back with Derek Carr, and they have roster holes, and they need to get better at a lot of different positions. So in my opinion, the black and gold, they have to be smart spenders. There's no question about it. When you're $47 million over the cap, obviously you're going to get to cap compliance, but you're not going to have a ton of money to spend. And you have to be conscious about the future of your cap space. So for New Orleans, I want to see them be smart with their money. I want to see them make good and fair contract offers that result in players who can be contributors. Not players that are projects, not players that are just coming in and just going to be a spot on the roster and never contribute. I want them to be smart and active spenders in free agency, because at the end of the day, they're going to try and win now. So go try and win right now. So really fast. We are so damn close, guys. We're 5 subs away from our next big milestone of 42,000 subscribers here at Saints Now by Chat Sports. So if you haven't already, join the Golden Gang for 100% free. Hit that big red sub button and lock us in. Let's go straight to Jeremy Fowler on Chase Young. He said that teams that he's talked to are putting Chase Young high on the overall pecking order in the pass rush free agency market. He's completely healthy now, and he's training vigorously for what he hopes is a breakout season. Expect the New Orleans Saints to be involved in a potential re-sign. And this is not the first time that we've heard Chase Young being potentially interested in coming back and the Saints potentially being interested in Chase Young wanting to return. We've seen this before. We've heard reports before the combine that the Saints would like to see Chase Young return and that Chase Young would be open to returning to the New Orleans Saints. And I think when it comes to the scheme under Brandon Staley, I think that Chase Young could be an excellent contributor opposite of Carl Granderson. Obviously, Cam Jordan is not getting any younger. That being said, I still think that Cam can be a high-level producer when it comes to putting up stats. That being said, there is no question about it. The pass rush was bad last year. Chase Young, I think, could be a big-time beneficiary of a change in scheme. Last year, the Saints ran a lot of 4-3, but this year, expect to see some 3-4 packages. I don't think they're going to be exclusively a 3-4 defense. I think you'll see some 4-3. I think you'll see some 3-4. And if you don't know what that means, 3-4 defenses, you got 3 down linemen, 4 linebackers, 4 guys behind you. You got 2 outside linebackers, edge rushers, if you will. Then you got your guys in the middle. 4-3, you have 4 defensive linemen. You got your traditional defensive ends, 2 tackles, and then your 3 linebackers behind them. But I think Brandon Staley will bring some changes schematically to the defense, and Chase Young could be a big beneficiary. That being said, I want to add Chase Young, but I also want to add a pass rusher in free agency and in the draft. You cannot leave the 2025 NFL draft without an edge rusher. Chase Young, he's still young. He's 25 years old. He still has, not 25, he's still young, but he still has a lot to prove in terms of what he can do. He has a lot of upside. He's a very athletic player. Injuries have kind of derailed the career and made things kind of go off, but I still think Chase Young would be an excellent person to bring back to this roster. But there's a lot of good talent, especially at the edge rusher department, that you can get for young and cheap, and you have to build and hit on those picks if you want to build something for the future. Too many times in the past few years have the Saints missed on edge rushers and defensive linemen in the draft process. You got to hit this year, and you got to hit, honestly, more than once probably. So coming up, we're going to discuss Paulson Adebo and Juwan Johnson, because this article also discussed the future of these 2 players, and they are, in my opinion, the 3 players we're discussing, the top 3 free agents for the New Orleans Saints this year. Really quick, though, I got to give a big-time shout-out to today's presenting sponsor and y'all's favorite presenting sponsor. That is Tushy Bidets. March Madness is here. It is finally about to kick off, and there's no doubt about it. The fellas are going to be coming over. You're going to be throwing down some brews, pounding some wings, and also having to use the restroom. And your bracket is going to bust this month, but that doesn't mean your butthole has to as well. Aura is Tushy's brand new electric bidet with an auto open lid and seat instant warm water that never runs cold, and UV sterilization for next level hygiene. Aura by Tushy easily attaches to your existing toilet without the need for additional plumbing. Installation is so simple, it only takes about 10 minutes to complete. Literally anybody can do it, including a Falcons fan. It's so easy to install, but I'll tell you what, fellas, it's easier to use. You sit down, you do your business, you cleanse, you dry using the built-in air dryer, and that's right, there's a built-in air dryer. You can clean yourself after using the restroom, hands-free. So reclaim your comfort zone in the bathroom for a limited time. Our listeners get 10% off their first bidet order when you use code CHAT at checkout. That's 10% off your first bidet order at hellotushy.com with promo code CHAT. Keep that hiney shiny and click the link in the comments and description of this video if you would like to get a Tushy bidet. Let's dive in to Paulson Adebo, because Jeremy Fowler did report that it's believed he is set up well for free agency. I expect him to have a nice market despite dealing with what's honestly a wild and very hard injury to have. I mean, breaking your femur, if I remember correctly, it's the hardest bone in your body to break. That being said, the recovery process is actually going, from what I understand, okay, and he should be able to be a contributor to wherever he signs defensively this offseason. Now, Jeremy Fowler adding he's a 25-year-old second contract player with length and speed who is recovering well from the surgery on his femur in October. If you remember, that was on the Thursday night game against the Broncos. I tried to erase that game from my memory, so I don't blame you if you forgot. The feeling is that the Saints will hope to re-sign him. And I'll say this about the cornerback room. I really like the youth in the cornerback room. I love Alontae Taylor. I think he's a really good player. He's a very disruptive player. And if you disagree, well, I'll tell you what, he was very efficient in breaking up passes, and he was very efficient in getting sack production whenever he was allowed to rush the passer. I also really like Kool-Aid McKinstry. I really like Rico Payton, but there needs to be more development across the board for all cornerbacks. And, unless you have a top cornerback unit across the league, you're going to need more development regardless. And so with that, I think experience is key here, and Paulson Adebo comes with a lot of experience. And sure, there's a penalty problem, and sure, he's a guy who gets a lot of flags, and it's very frustrating as a fan to see a defensive player in Paulson Adebo who is very talented, but continues to just get penalties in what feels like the most inopportune times, especially. But 9 penalties for 106 yards, that's a lot. But there's yin and then there's yang. Newton's law of gravity. You push one way, you pull the other. You get a lot of penalties. You also get a lot of pass breakups. You had 10 pass breakups in the limited action we saw him. He also had multiple interceptions. He's a player who's extremely disruptive when he's on the field. Sure, the penalties are a problem, but let's be honest, this is an offensive, catered league. So when the NFL, if it sees a potential 50-50, this could be a penalty, this could not be a penalty, they're going to side with the offense more times than not. That's no mystery. I still think Paulson Adebo is a player that's worth keeping around in my personal opinion. But if you had to bring one back, you can only bring one. Chase Young or Paulson Adebo. I'm going to make this one kind of tough for you. Get in the comment section and let me know what you think down below. And we're going to round things out with the tight end position. So not specifically about Juwan Johnson, but this does impact Juwan Johnson. Teams are projecting that the tight end market could actually tap out at around $8 million per year. So for a guy like Juwan Johnson, he could be looking to make some good money. But I also think for the Saints, $8 million a year, maybe that's a little bit too much if you're trying to be cap compliant, you're trying to be smart as spenders. But, if you had money to spend, I would do that on a player like Juwan Johnson. That being said, I think tight end is a big-time need. There's no question about it. You cannot leave this year with your current tight end group. That's just unacceptable. I think Dallin Holker is a fine player. We just haven't seen much from him. So there's still a lot of questions, and that's totally fair. I want to see him get an opportunity, but we haven't seen him get his opportunity. Foster Moore, I think, is an excellent tight end too. But with Juwan Johnson, he is a player that can bring value to the position. 17 touchdowns over the last 4 seasons. That's top 8 among all active tight ends. His average depth of target is also top 10 across the tight end room. And PFF actually had him ranked number 37 in their top 50 total free agents this past year. I do think with Juwan Johnson, he is the number 1 free agent at the tight end position. So he will have some interest for teams that need a tight end. Now, again, I think Foster Moreau is an excellent tight end too. And I really like what he was able to do for the New Orleans Saints. He actually led the black and gold in touchdown catches, if you didn't know that. But he was making plays in big moments, just like how Juwan Johnson does. I mean, I think Juwan Johnson, it's not necessarily fair, the amount of hate that he gets from some Saints fans. Like, he was extremely productive at one point in time in his career, over half of his catches being touchdowns or first downs. But you just haven't seen that continue to be the case week in and week out. And then, it just hasn't been targeted as much. And I just think that Juwan Johnson, he would be better off in a different situation. And I think the Saints, they need a guy who is a true tight end. If you guys didn't know, Johnson was a wide receiver that got moved to tight end after he was signed as an undrafted free agent. And this draft class has a plethora of quality tight ends, not just the guys that you see on your screen here, but across the board. There is so many quality players that you can get. And honestly, your top 3 picks of the draft. I love getting Tyler Warren at number 9 overall. Harold Fannin, Colston Loveland, Gunnar Helm, Mason Taylor, all could be really good options on day 2. I really like the idea of Mason Taylor, a true tight end out of LSU. He had an excellent week at the combine. Gunnar Helm, obviously, he twisted his ankle. That's not going to majorly have a massive impact on his career. Colston Loveland, a tough son of a gun. He is a player that I would love to see the Saints get. I'm kind of in the camp of go draft a tight end rather than bring back Juwan Johnson, but I'm going to ask you. I think it's fair to let you guys sound off and share your opinions. Would you rather re-sign Juwan Johnson or draft a tight end? Just type Juwan or draft. And if you want to go above and beyond, let me know what player you would draft at the tight end position. Saints fans, thank y'all so much for watching today's video. Don't forget to subscribe. We're so close to 42K. We'll see you guys later. Y'all stay golden. Have a great day.